Hi everyone. Thank you for joining this new session of the Supply Chain Leaders webinars. 400 professionals from 40 countries have registered to today's session, which shows the great interest for Heineken's best practices. We would like to thank our today's speakers, Elena Kaporina and Carlo Bisagni, who are respectively S&OP Core Global Program Manager and Agile Project Manager at Heineken. Thank you for sharing your experience on the global implementation of a supply chain planning solution at Heineken in a fast and agile way. Heineken, as we all know, is the second largest brewer in the world. The presentation will last about 30 minutes, plus a 15-minute Q&A session. You can ask your questions as of now in the questions section on the right of your screen. And now I'm going to hand it over to Elena and Carlo to start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Nairi, for the introduction. Carlo and myself will tell you the story of S&OP Core Program implementation, the implementation of the planning solution in Heineken in a fast and agile way. But before we start speaking about the program itself and our ways of working and the results that we have achieved, let me briefly introduce Heineken. I am sure you have heard Heineken, the name of Heineken before. I hope you have also tried Heineken beer before. But let me tell you a few facts and numbers about Heineken. Heineken company has a long and proud history. It's a family company, Dutch family company. And Heineken is the world's most international brewer. It is #1 in Europe and #2 in the world. And our brands are present in more than 190 countries. The company itself is operating in more than 70 countries. Heineken is not only the beer company, we are not only brewing great beers, but also ciders and soft drinks. And Heineken is famous all over the world for its great brands. Heineken has a truly global presence, as I already mentioned, and we have operations in 4 regions of the world, in Europe, Africa and Middle East, Americas, and Asia Pacific. It means more than 85,000 employees are working for Heineken in more than 160 breweries, malteries, cider plants, and other production facilities in over 70 countries. And the consolidated beer volume in 2019 was above 240 million hectoliters worldwide. So the company name is, of course, well known for the Heineken brand, but it's not only about the Heineken brand itself. We also do have a wide range of international brands portfolio. And just to name a few, Amstel, Desperados, Sol, Tiger, Birra Moretti. These brands are present all over the world. They are a strong driver of our premium revenue growth, and they are traveling across the borders. You can find these brands in many countries and in many regions of the world. But it's not only about the international brands. In each country, we do have what we call local jewels, local brands, like in Asia Pacific, Bintang and Anchor, and Goldberg and Primus in Africa, Birra Moretti, Givets and Cruzcampa in Europe, and Kaiser and Dos Equis in Americas. They are well known and beloved by our consumers. But it's not only about the numbers, facts and figures, hectoliters or number of breweries. It's also about the company culture and the ways of working, which make us truly call ourselves we are Heineken. It's about building the human connections and breaking down barriers. We are inspired by our consumers because we want to make sure that we brew the best beer for them, and we do this in all our brands, in all our products, in all our activities. Heineken has been founded in 1864, and we are very proud of our family history and Dutch heritage. And we do derive from that our entrepreneurial spirit. We are building brands all over the world, and it defines our global portfolio and makes it diverse and unique. But none of this is possible without the people who are in the heart of our company. The strengths that we have is in trust, diversity, and progress. We also do have a strong commitment to our values, which is passion for quality, enjoyment of life, respect for people and for the planet. And we work with our customers as with our partners to grow together and to try to do it with integrity and fairness. We are Heineken. The modern world puts a lot of pressure on the end-to-end performance of many companies. You have external drivers behind that. Of course, consumer demand has changed in the last decades. There are quite some economic volatility going on. There's globalisation trends, the competition is growing, but there are also new technologies and new things appearing, things which are related to big data, to omni-channel, to artificial intelligence, and all of this new and modern events. We do also have internal drivers behind the pressure. It's important to break down the functional silo within the company and within the company operations. And since we are a company present in many regions and in many countries, that is not always uniform. Planning landscape is fragmented, can be fragmented, and that is also a challenge. There is a strong drive to look on the things end to end. And of course, there's always a pressure to make sure that the costs are staying in the reasonable amounts and we do not have bad costs. So to answer all of these challenges, Heineken has 5 business priorities for action, which are committed to long-term value creation. This is deliver top-line growth, drive end-to-end performance, bring a better world, engage and develop our people, and connect in a digital world. And S&OP Core program is addressing and supporting these business priorities. I will tell you a little bit more about that. How S&OP Core program has started and how it's taken off. Let me also tell you a little bit about the history, why we started to work and develop the S&OP Core is because we wanted to understand better what happens at the bar and in the shop. We wanted to optimize our distribution. We wanted to better plan our operations, share better info with our suppliers, and actually their suppliers. So this is how we call it, driving end-to-end efficiency from grain in the field to the glass at the bar. To answer that, we have developed together with Future Master 2 planning modules. Demand planning module, where we are focusing on the demand part, which is coming from our consumers and our customers. And the supply part, where we are looking at our distribution network, planning production of our breweries, and our material requirements to be shared to our suppliers. So really looking and working end to end. The idea of the program has originated end of 2016. And in 2017, we have started our first pilots, the development of the program and the pilot operations, pilot rollout in 2 operating companies, which we call OPCOs. Since 2018, we started deploying the solution. After successful pilots, we started deploying the solution to the first operating companies all over the world. And from 2019 onwards, we are scaling up to many OPCOs all over the world. So if we look at the picture of how our roadmap looked like, in April 2018, you can see here on Planet Core, 2 operating companies of Heineken, which were the pilots. This is Hungary and China. And in April 2018, we started with the first operating companies that we wanted to deploy. And we do have several stages in our journey. We do have the technical go live for demand and supply modules and the business go live. So in 2 years' time, the picture has changed dramatically. We have 9 live opcos, which have successfully landed on the S&OP Core Planet. And there are quite some opcos in the stage of the deployment. Very soon, we expect the business go live for these opcos in the coming couple of months. There are some opcos still in deployment, but in the early stages, and there is a lot of operating companies willing to join and start the deployment. That has been achieved in the course of 2 years. Of course, every time we do a global deployment, a global rollout of a program, of a capability program supported by the solution, we need to have a business case behind it. And we expected quite some benefits from this implementation, from the rollout in the opcos. So in the business case, we expected the inventory reduction, 10 to 15%. We expected reduction of the write-offs of the obsolescence cost, 10 to 30%. They also expected to have a logistics contribute to the logistics cost reduction, around 1%. And of course, last but not the least, contribute to the revenue increase by ensuring that we have better product availability, better service level to our customers, and thus contributing to the increase of our sales. And of course, that is also about the reducing the recurring IT costs and making sure that we have uniform solutions all over the world. And the value tracking that we have already shows that this is not just a theoretical business case, and this is not just expected results, but we already see improvements in many operating companies all over the world, which have went live in 2018 and 2019 with the S&OP Core solution. Of course, it depends operating company by operating company. Not all of them are unique. Their challenges can be different, and their business results can be also different depending on their landscape, depending on their starting situation, where their biggest problem were. But overall, there was a significant improvement in forecast accuracy. You can see just a few examples. In Hungary, there was plus 3.5% forecast accuracy improvement for accuracy month -1, and actually even a better result for the forecast accuracy plus 9%, forecast accuracy month -3. This is the forecast made 3 months ago for the coming month. There was also a huge improvement in the forecast bias observed in many operating companies. Like in Slovenia, it has improved to 4.8 from 11.6. In South Africa, it has improved to 5.9 from 12. Forecast bias is the performance indicator which shows basically how structurally we tend to over forecast or under forecast. And the higher the value is, the more potential losses we can have in the end-to-end chain by excessive stocks or vice versa by the write-offs. We have also seen a significant improvement and significant reduction in the write-off costs in different operating companies. In Greece, for example, the write-off costs have decreased by almost 50%, and in Malaysia by 70%. And it also has contributed in many operating companies. We have seen the improvement of the stock levels for finished products, for raw materials, for packaging materials in days of stock. In China, the stock level for the raw materials has dramatically improved. We were minus 27 days of stock. Also in Greece, we managed to improve the finished product stock level from 20 days of stock to 20 days of stock from 27 days. So all in all, these business performance KPIs demonstrate that the value is really there, and we are not just deploying the solution for the sake of solution, but we are contributing to our business. It is great that we see positive business results, but it's also, of course, is also about the feedback, and it's also about how our operating companies are seeing and are reacting to this global initiative. And in a company with a complicated global and operating companies framework like Heineken, which is present all over the world, that is can be sometimes a challenge. But as you can see from some of the testimonials from Malaysia, Tunisia, and Hungary, from the supply chain representatives, CS&L planning, and the supply chain director of Tunisia, they have recognized the value that the S&OP core has brought to them. In Tunisia, they believe that they have become more responsive to the market needs. When we speak about Hungary, the implementation of the planning solution helped to the operating company to overachieve the maximum EBIT target and to improve the forecast accuracy. Malaysia have observed a higher level of automation, better planning of utilization of resources, and actually the transparency of the data. That is also a very important point. And of course, it contributes to improvement of the cross-functional communication and collaboration. S&OP Core is accelerating as a program, and we do have quite a roadmap in front of us. So as I already mentioned, we are live and fully operational in 9 operating companies all over the world. We are deploying at the moment still in 6 operating companies, and we do plan to cover 36 more operating companies in the coming 4 years in all of the corners of the world, in Americas, Europe, Africa, Middle East region, and Asia Pacific. How we are doing this, and a few words about what helps us to keep such a pace and the way we are organized to deliver. We are actually doing the deployment in 2 flight teams, as we call them, which are led by the flight leads, by the project managers, and the teams are comprising of the business and IT representatives. So it's really a truly joint planning and IT initiative and program. We also work as one team. That might sound very banal and very straightforward, but that is not always happening in the big projects. But I think we can proudly say we work as one team. We do have also full integration with our software partners. And we don't distinguish between Heineken and non-Heineken. We work together with FutureMaster and with IBM together. We have functional experts in our team which have the knowledge of the demand and supply planning processes. So we really know the business and what we are talking about. And our team is built up of experts with S&OP and planning experience, which is quite important because you speak the same language with the people on the shop floor, with the people who are in the operating company. And last but not the least, it's the continuous improvement mentality of the team. We are focusing on becoming better, understanding what has not been done particularly well, and taking quick and fast measures to resolve that, but also learning what has been done well and reapplying this. And this continuing process of taking learnings and implementing them fast, and combining the development and deployment, and of course, the support and aftercare to the operating companies, make sure that we as a team and our way of working is creating trust in us in the operating companies. That is, of course, a planning and IT program. And you would ask what would be the main challenge that we are facing. and it could be multiple. You could have challenges with master data, you can have challenges with infrastructure, you can have challenges with traveling. Yeah, all of this is true, but what we have recognized for the last years of our journey, the main challenge that we are facing is really creating the conditions for sustainable change in the way people work together. It's really about the mindset and about the way of working. The way of working is something that we observe, but it's the mindset of the people that we need to change and we need to address. So how do we address these change management challenges? We do a lot of activities in communication, in change management, to make sure that the operating companies and the teams, the global team and the teams of the operating companies are working closely together. We are focusing on people engagement. You can see a nice example here on the screen where we are explaining why are we doing this project, what is the benefits for the people, what it is in it for them. We also communicate the benefits to the organization in the fun and interesting way. Actually, the spring stream that you see, this is our cartoons that we demonstrate, and it makes it easier for us to connect to everybody, even without multiple speeches, words, or lengthy presentation. And we are actively using the workplace internal platform of Heineken, where we communicate about our milestones, about our successes in the social media type of way. And this is a very important element in terms of the recognition of the people and their achievements, the people from the global team, the people from the operating company. All of that is working to ensure that the change is happening and the change is happening in a sustainable way. And the last very important bit of the change management agenda and also of our deployment agenda is the fact that we also are bringing the operating companies close together by means of S&OP core user community. We do have a dedicated person in our team who is a solution support lead, who is coordinating the user community, bringing the opcos from all of the corners of the world together to make sure we connect the peers. We also deliver support to the community. We deliver support from the global side and we deliver support between the peers. It also helps us to create and copy the good practices because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If one operating company has developed a really good practice, it is great to share this and to reapply it with pride. Also, this network of the key users helps us to identify the issues or the problems, drive improvements, and implement the new features. And now I'm going to hand over to Carlo, who will take you through the journey in terms of the Agile methodology and the ways of working.
Thanks, Elena, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Now, in the next, so we spoke so far about how great of a success S&OP Core has been in Heineken, and in the next few slides, I'm going to take you through the details of what we did to make it a success, because it's important. It's not only important the what, but also the how we achieve it. Now, let me see, flick through. Seems to be able to flick through the slides. Give me a moment. Oh, there it comes. Yes, so S&OP Core has recognized a success in Heineken for four key elements. First of all is, of course, supporting the global supply chain strategy, as Elena largely articulated. But we did empower the opcos our operating companies to win, and that is in terms of indeed adopting the new ways of working, but also in participating into creating and deploying S&OP Core. We were able to collaborate and connect with all our operating companies and all our colleagues around the world. And being Heineken such a geographically dispersed organization, it's not easy challenge, and we were actually able to deliver it with speed. But then let's go a level deeper into this. So what it is that allowed us to act with speed, collaborate and connect and empower our colleagues? And that is two things. The first of all is a mindset, and the second is element is a method. And the mindset is four things. First, focus on customer value, empower the team, start quick and smart, and learn relentlessly. And we will go into the details of this further in the next slide. The second element is the method, and that is a typical Agile methodology in which we create a backlog. We then decide what value out of that backlog we want to deliver in each sprint. We work on the delivery of the sprint, then we inspect that the value is delivered, and then we move on to the next chunk of work. So then let's now focus on the mindset. Now, first of all, customer value. Now, this is actually a very important slide for us because with Core, we were actually able to move from what the customer wants, which is build me a truck in this example, to what the customer needs, which is I want to deliver, transport beer. And that is a very important change because as you can see, if we focused on what the customer wanted, we would not be able to deliver quickly something that satisfied their needs, while focusing on their needs allowed us to deliver in first instance something that is, well, probably not exactly what the customer wanted, but something that could fulfill the needs of the customer. And this is not only about the customer itself, it's also about the way we ask the questions and the way we interact with our customers. So we had to ask them what their needs were rather than what they wanted. And of course, that opens up a different level of conversation. It's actually maybe a more complicated conversation because when we talk about needs, sometimes things are not clear, that you need to use a little bit of interactions and strategies to elicit those needs. But it clearly allowed us to deliver sooner something that helped the customer to satisfy their needs. So what we do with the customers, we essentially create a localized business case, which is tailored on their need. We identify what brings most of value out of those in that business case. But we also don't do certain things. That's also important. And we don't over-deliver. So we remain humble and we focus really on what is actually needed from the customer. Now, the second element is power to the teams. That is also something Elena anticipated in the previous slides, is moving from I to we. And this is not only about within the Heineken organizations, but it extends towards the IBM and the Future Master team. So if you look at, if you would participate in one of our stand-ups, you would not see the difference really between a colleague from Future Master and a colleague from Heineken. We're all in this together and we act as one team. We of course collaborate through trust. So we were, in time able to come to a cohesive team and trust each other. But again, also something we don't do as we don't micromanage. That's a little bit of consequences of trusting. Basically, have confidence that everybody's doing their best, that they know what they're doing, and if they are not capable or not able, then they would ask. And that basically eliminates the need or the urge to micromanage. Now, the third point is start quick and smart, and that is, of course, related a bit to the focusing on what the customer needs rather than what the customer wants. So we listen to the customer, we create a mock-up or proof of value, for instance, with that is important with OPCO data, so that the customer can really see their own SKUs, their own POs, and any other master or transactional data that flows into core. Then we agree with them what is the minimum viable product that will help in addressing the customer needs. I remember the slides with the small tray with a crate of beer evolving then into a lorry. So we define exactly what is the crate and how does that small tray looks like, and then how the lorry looks like. And of course, through the journey, we check with the customers that we are progressing in the right way, and that is the product is evolving the way the customer needs. Now, last is about a mindset, and I would like to take you maybe a few seconds to read through this Dilibert strip. Yeah, and I'm sure most of us are actually familiar with this. And in core, we don't do this. We do exactly, in fact, the opposite. So we inspect after every sprint, and we also check on ourselves and look at what how we are doing. We don't blame ourselves for mistakes or things that went wrong, and we also don't feel ashamed in admitting that some things didn't go the way they should, or that we are maybe just simply not able to do what we are supposed to. And that creates an attitude of, let's say, an atmosphere of safety, in which we share our knowledge, our learnings, our pitfalls, our successes, and so on. And that again contributes in creating a one team, avoid micromanagement, and eventually generate a good flow within the team, where you really see the team members interacting with each other, understanding where everybody is, and basically being able then to deliver in a faster and smoother way. Of course, all this together deliver a new feature which excites the users, and we do have excited users about Future Master and Core out there. Now, of course, that comes also with responsibilities, because of course all these users are also expecting quite some good and fast support too. And then they expect also some innovation, and they're also asking us what's coming next. So first the support, and then the what will come next. Now, on the support, of course, we implement a DevOps model in which we see that the development team and the deployment team is the same team that essentially support the solution. Now, I'm sure that most of you are familiar already with a DevOps model, so maybe I won't go into the actual details of how the DevOps works. That may be something we can cover in a separate webinar. But what we appreciate of this model is that it's very easy to transition then from the development to the support, because there is no loss of knowledge. And actually, in many cases, it's exactly the same person who did the development up until yesterday who is gonna, facing or cooperating with our opcos as of today in the support. So that also creates a lot of confidence in our operating companies on the continuity and stability of the progress. But it's also, and I think that is very important from let's say from my perspective, it helps in creating ownership with the team for the product, because nobody can literally say, well, okay, after the deployment is done, it's no longer my problem. No, it is, well, it continues to be your product, and you're continuing to be part of it. And so this end-to-end mentality forms in the mind of each of us, and that helps in making better decisions, helps in building confidence, helps in looking further ahead, and in really living and breathing the core application. That's on the DevOps. And then the second question for the customer is about, well, it's a success so far, we like it, well, what's coming next? So we actually, together with Elena and the rest of the team, we need to continue thinking about, well, what can we do next to keep our customer excited? What do we do to answer further their needs, and also like how are their needs changing? Now, some starting points. First of all, our ambition in core is, of course, and that remains, will remain for the years to come, is to have a cross-functional team that makes decision based on fact, with a farm figure mentality, and so on. So those are actually cardinal principles of the S&OP implementations in Heineken. But we are moving towards a new model called basically S&OP Fit. And S&OP Fit means many things, apart from, of course, a catchy name, specifically in this time of crisis, where we must remain fit. That's very important. It's about looking further into the right? And what is that will keep core or the S&OP implementation of Future Master relevant for the years to come. And that is about, we see, among other things, multi-opco planning. We do have operating companies in pretty much every country in the world. So we need to leverage synergies in the supply and demand planning across these countries. We also see a lot of artificial intelligence features coming up. Just to name one is the impact of weather on the demand. There are many others that we need to include, that we would like to include in the template. Then, very important to user experience, especially in the days in which digital and online is becoming more and more relevant. Also, due to the crisis we are in, user experience is very important, and it's about creating a seamless journey for the planners throughout their processes and their work. And then, of course, the technology, the underlying technology, very important, and as the cloud solution. So we are looking into leveraging the SaaS solution the Future Master provides, and then build on that all the other things. So in other words, a very successful product that we are looking at bringing further to make it relevant for the years to come. And so I would like to conclude and say that indeed we are part of a journey that continues in a fit, agile, and fit way. Now, with that being said, I would like then to, I think, give back to control to Audi for questions and answers.
Nairi. So thank you very much, Elena and Carlo, for this very practical and insightful business case. We've received many questions from the attendees, and we're going to try to respond to as many as possible during the next 15 minutes. And of course, we received also some questions regarding the current COVID crisis. So let's start maybe with the first question. So how did Future Master contributed to the development and deployment of S&OP Core?
Yes, I'll
wants to answer, Carlo. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take that. So you contributed, as we said. I think the biggest two big contributions, first of all, is the knowledge of the application and the best practices in the S&OP environment. And the second, let's also keep in mind that the relationship between Heineken and Future Master goes back at least a decade. So there's a very good understanding of the from the consultants of Future Master of the Heineken reality and the Heineken specifics. And the second element, I think, is the attitude, that ability to for the colleagues from Future Master to come in and join our teams and start sharing and practicing the values of Agile was very important, I think. So content and attitude together created the a good success in the development and deployments.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, what would you do differently in the deployment of S&OP Core? I don't know who wants to answer this.
Yeah, let me maybe take that one. I think I already mentioned during the presentation that we are continuously taking the learnings throughout the deployment and applying them. So it's difficult to mention one big thing, but maybe related also to the current COVID situation, yeah, and the way we are now operating, all of us are operating. What we could probably do differently would be to have a little bit more of focus on digital learning and remote working, which would help us to make this transition easier. We did rely, and we do rely still a lot about the face-to-face sessions with the operating companies. This is how we have been doing it in deployment in the past. And probably in the current situation, if we do have more focus on digital, it would help us not to focus on this now, but be more ready.
Okay, thank you. So what are the features of S&OP Core that are the most relevant for planners in the time of COVID-19?
Yeah, let me also take this as a planner. I think one of the things to mention, one of the important things to mention is scenario management. This is really of vital importance throughout the crisis, and there is a possibility to do the different demand scenarios and supply scenarios. So how the scenario is really looking end to end. Because in the current time of uncertainty, we have to operate with not only with one agreed plan, but also with multiple scenarios.
Okay. So what is your experience with the support offered by FutureMaster?
Yeah, I think I can take that because I'm actually overseeing the DevOps team. Yeah, I think as we said, it's good to begin with, and it's good because we for two main reasons. First is the relationship between Heineken and FutureMaster goes back a while. And so we there's a good understanding from FutureMaster of the specifics of Heineken and of our culture, because also the FutureMaster is used in all the operating companies which are in different nationalities and in different cultures. So yeah, there are different perspectives that they may come in, and the second thing is about the way we organize the support. So some of the colleagues on FutureMaster are working on development and deployments are also supporting the application. So naturally there is no solution of continuity between the two. And so I think that is probably the key, the biggest key of success. We also say maybe a third one to reflect upon is we have we were able to keep a stable group of colleagues from FutureMaster, so that throughout at least the last 2-3 years, so that the knowledge remains within the team, and we didn't have to preoccupy ourselves with too many handovers between one person to another and so on. And then maybe a fourth, now that I hear myself talking, I think it's also the geographical distributions. Now we do have at the moment support delivered from Brazil, from the UK, and from Singapore and China, and that allows us to cover basically all the time zones, so that the planners in the opcos basically receive support in office hours. That's also very important to create a community of users around the application.
Okay, thank you, Carlo. So what are the key challenges to the overall OpCo solution?
That is a very good question. Yeah, any solution which is focusing on more than one operating company is not an easy thing to do, especially because there are different ways of working. There are still different priorities by the operating companies, and maybe the directions can be different. But yeah, if I would try to summarize it in 2 key points, one is master data. That is really a thing which is of utmost importance, and it has to be in the basic conditions. Yeah, you need to make sure that the standards are applicable. Yeah, it's a bit boring, but this is the reality, because you are not able to work in the multi-OPCO or above OPCO solution if your master data doesn't match, if you don't recognize the product or a material. That is more from, I would say, technical or IT perspective. And from the process perspective, of course, it's not an easy challenge in terms of the governance and the ways of working. So we need to make sure that we, as the planners from different operating companies, we find the right model, we develop together the right model of governance, of S&OP meeting cycle, of the ways of working in collaboration, which would make sure that we basically are successful.
Okay, great. Another question. So we're receiving many questions. As we, of course, we won't be able to answer to all of them, but let's continue. So how has the program rollout and S&OP core ways of working have been impacted by COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, let me take this question. I think I partially already answered in the previous one. Yeah, as many of us all over the world, we are working from home. We are working behind the screens. So it did have an impact on us because we had to find a new creative and digital ways of keeping the rollout and the deployment connected. And I am actually proud to say that for some of the operating companies where we are, you have seen this on the slide with the small rockets, the operating companies like Czech, Slovakia, and Egypt, the team managed to find an optimal balance of working together with the users remotely and providing to them support remotely, defining a routine and the ways to connect, how they do the meetings, etc., to proceed and to continue moving to the business go live. Also, what we realize now, and we, as I mentioned, we have been relying on face-to-face training. Now we are really exploring the opportunities, how we can do more things digitally, how we can do some trainings digitally. But what we also have been doing, we have also revised our program plans, and we have been rethinking the technical activities, the technical testing, for example, how we can also move it forward. So that's still a work in progress, to be honest, but we already see quite some positive signs, even in spite of this difficult situation of the COVID, how we can move forward together.
Okay, thanks for this. So what is the feedback from operating companies about the program, and what are the key game changers that they identified with S&OP Core?
Yeah, let me take this one. The feedback is generally very positive. There is a long, I would not say waiting list, but there is a lot of operating companies who are willing to implement S&OP Core solution. And I would say the key game changers that they identify is the way that the solution is a good quality developed template, because it caters for most of the business needs, because that has not been the thing in the past. And what we have delivered as a template is something which is catering for the needs of the demand and supply planners, is making their job easier, is helping to automate their job, and also helping them to focus on exceptions. And the biggest game changer that they observe is the fact that we also provide support. We don't go away, as sometimes happens with some projects or programs implemented. We don't go away. There is a support, continuous support from the global team, with the support function, with the new developments, There is feedback to what the OpCores are willing to implement, and they're willing to work with us together on improvement.
Okay, great. Next question. Did you consider other vendors for the development of S&OP Core, other vendors than FutureMaster?
I think Carlo already mentioned a little bit that partially we do have Heineken, and FutureMaster has worked many years ago, started working together many years ago. So we wanted to leverage this experience and the knowledge that FutureMaster has about Heineken and vice versa. To be honest, I don't remember the date, but it was clearly, I would say it's around 20 years or more that we first started to work together. So we were aiming to use this partnership and these ties in a strategic way, just with a little bit of different focus, because in the past, the deployment and the implementation of the planning solutions that were happening in Heineken were very customized. So each OpCo was basically having their own extremely unique and separate solution, which made the support and the continuation and the further development quite difficult. So we chose to do it differently this time with FutureMaster, and to make sure that we deliver something which is standard, which is sustainable, and which is scalable.
Okay. Another question about COVID. Could Agile deployment be used to get a system live quickly to support COVID-19 planning?
Yeah, let me take that. Yes, definitely so. I mean, what we see that Agile allowed us basically to shift it or reschedule our priorities in the wake of the crisis. So we came into 2020 with a very nice and laid out plans for the year, consisting of a certain amount of deployments and a certain amount of development user stories. And then again, we started receiving requests from the OpCos about different features, like scenario planning or others. Yeah, and so we basically had to reshuffle the backlog and divert resources to other user stories that were delivering more value at the beginning. Now, again, if we remember for a moment that slide I presented about the customer value, if we were just following a traditional waterfall approach, we would have been stuck on the rails of delivering that track. While with the Agile methodology, we were able basically to shift priorities from one feature to another.
Okay, maybe one last question. How can global S&OP improve ways of working when introducing a new brand such as Heineken Zero?
That's a good one. Maybe Elena, you have a view on that.
That's a good question, of course. And it is important when introducing any new brand, any new product, it is important that NPI is part of S&OP process. And this is where we are supporting this as a capability, both in demand planning and in supply planning. Because we are also talking about a global brand, and the brandages can be rolled out in different countries. We could also learn from the experience of another operating company that was already introducing, for example, Heineken 00, and take these learnings, take these demand profiles, and try to reapply it to the operating company which is implementing it. And last but not the least, we already mentioned scenarios. There's also a possibility to run several demand and supply scenarios to be prepared, because every introduction of a new product is a risk. This is not something that you unfortunately can predict with 100% forecast accuracy. So here is extremely important to work with scenario mentality. What if there will be moderate demand, or what if demand will be a perfect storm demand that will exceed all our expectations? So that from the planning perspective, from supply chain perspective, from commercial perspective, we are prepared for this scenario.
Okay, great. Thank you very much to both of you, Elena and Carlo, for your presentation today, and thank you for the attendees for joining. We're very much interested in having your feedback on this webinar, so please take a couple of minutes to fill in the evaluation survey that will appear at the end of the webinar and that you will also receive by email. You also receive the link to the replay of the webinar very soon. By the way, for your information, all the replays of the Supply Chain Leaders webinars series are on FutureMaster website and on FutureMaster YouTube channel. Thank you again to everyone for joining today. Stay tuned for the next Supply Chain Leaders webinar that we'll announce shortly, and wish you a good day or evening. Bye-bye.